everyone, welcome to the Solar 101 Helping People Go Solar webinar. My name is Olivia Burns. I'm an environmental specialist with Clark County's Office of Sustainability. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to have with us Solar United Neighbors, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping communities access and benefit from solar energy. Our guest speaker today is Julia Hubbard, Nevada Program Director. She'll guide us through the basics of solar power, how it works, and what incentives are available here in Southern Nevada. Before I pass it over to Julia to get us started, I'll share a few quick tips to enhance your presentation experience and help you navigate the platform more easily. Firstly, you can translate the entire meeting page and/or the live audio into another language by clicking the Translate button and selecting your preferred language from the drop-down menu. Closed captions are also available for this presentation. Click the CC button at the bottom right corner of the page to turn them on. If you'd like to hear audio by phone, you can use the 855 number provided above the presentation page. To interact with us during the session, please use the chat box next to the live stream to submit any comments or questions. If a question comes up in mind during the presentation, drop it in the chat and we'll address them at the end. This presentation is being recorded and will be available on DES's YouTube channel after the session. Lastly, if you experience any issues hearing or viewing the presentation, please refresh your browser page. Now I'll pass it over to Julia to get us started. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Olivia. It's great to be with you all and much appreciate all in Clark County for giving us the opportunity to share more about solar. So give me one moment while I share my screen. All right. Olivia, are you seeing that all right?
Yes, looks good.
Great. Thanks so much. All right, so today we are going to talk about solar, and this is a short presentation, so there is a lot to cover, but hopefully more than anything, this is just a Kickstarter to your solar education. We'll be directing you to additional resources and guides that you can dig in further. My name is Julia, and I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Nevada Program Director of Solar United Neighbors. We are a nonprofit that works in Nevada as well as 12 other different states and Puerto Rico and DC. We're dedicated to creating a clean, equitable, and resilient energy system that benefits everyone with rooftop solar at its cornerstone. We do a lot of education because solar is complicated and a little bit confusing, right? So our goal is to really empower consumers so that they have the information that they need to make the best decision for their household. We also represent the interests of solar owners and advocate for solar rights at a local, state, and a federal level. We are unaffiliated with any developers or installers, so we're vendor neutral and we rely entirely on community engagement and involvement. So far, we've helped over 10,000 families go solar. That's across 50 states. We've run 448 solar co-ops. These are like bulk purchase programs. We haven't yet done any of these in Nevada, but we are looking to do that in the future. And that's a lot of, that's a lot of impact. So let's keep going. Our theory of change is really grounded in that education, helping people go solar, come together through that process of connection and community, and then also turning out to defend net metering, which I'll talk about soon enough, as well as other energy rights, and making sure that there are fair ways of accessing solar, right? That it's not prevented at an HOA level. So you can go solar on your own, and we'll walk through that through some of our guides online. But we also offer those bulk programs where you can go solar with your neighbors or someone across the city. We also direct people to community solar programs in Nevada. That looks a little bit different. It's a low to moderate income program that NV Energy runs, but in other places, community solar is a much larger program, which is something we'd love to see in Nevada, and we are advocating for at a state level. And then we also have something called our Solar Help Desk, which is a free service that can answer any of your solar questions, whether that's you're just looking at getting into solar and have a lot of questions about how do I go solar? What does a good installer look like? Can you help me read this proposal? Or maybe you're in the thick of installation and you have some questions, or after post installation and you've got like a maintenance issue, or you're wondering about the generation that your system is producing and it's feeling like it's incorrect. We will handle all of those for you, and you can request a 15-minute appointment with one of our solar help desk experts to talk through whatever that issue might be. All right, so there's a lot of different reasons that people go solar, but the most common reason is to save money, right? So when you are adding those solar panels to your home, you're able to generate your own electricity, which is reducing the amount of electricity that you need to purchase from NV Energy. Others really are drawn to this energy independence concept of you're choosing to produce your own electricity from the sources that you choose. And then we also have added resiliency. So when you install solar and paired with battery storage, you can insulate your household from any grid outages. Especially up north, this can be an issue. We get a lot of high winds up here, but I know that is also the case in other parts of the state as well. And then we know that utility bill prices continue to rise. And by going solar, you're able to have a more stable and predictable utility bill, right? Because you're not subject to relying on all of your electricity from NV Energy. And we also know that solar boosts the economy. There's good paying local jobs that are created through the solar industry. In Nevada, we have over 9,000 jobs here. And then, of course, solar is reducing our reliance on fossil fuels. In Nevada, 56% of our in-state electricity generation is fueled by natural gas, which is piped from out of state. And those fossil fuels can lead to dirty air, right? And other impacts on our health. All right, so how do solar panels work? So when the sun is shining and hitting your panels, those photons from the sunlight dislodge electrons within the panels, and that generates a flow of electricity. That flow of electricity is then fed into an inverter. And if you look at this diagram here, you're seeing the panels, and then the arrows go down to this inverter where the direct current, that flow of electricity that your panels is producing, then needs to be inverted to an alternating current. AC is the alternating current that our appliances use in our home, so it needs to be converted. And then it flows over to the electrical panel. And that's really the brains of the operation. It's directing where power needs to go, where it needs to go. And you all have probably engaged with your electrical panel before, especially if the power has gone out and maybe your breakers needed to go switch. That's that. Then there is another kind of like grayish box right beside that electrical panel. That's number 4, a utility meter. And for solar owners, they have a bi-directional utility meter that is measuring the amount of electricity that they are purchasing, that they're pulling from the grid, but also the excess energy that their panels are producing that they're sending to the grid. And that's what they're receiving a credit for on your utility bill. At the end of the month, your final electric utility bill is your total usage minus the electricity your solar panels produced. So this is just a greater detail view of the process I just talked through. But let's talk about net metering. So net metering is a really important policy that has been the driver of solar. And it's essentially tracking that flow of excess generation of electricity that you are sending to the grid. This is not electricity that you are using within your house, it's your excess generation. And historically, net metering, you were credited at a 1-to-1 ratio. So, whatever the retail rate of electricity that you were purchasing, you were getting that same credit on your bill. This system has been under attack by utilities across the nation. And so today in Nevada, we don't have true net metering. We don't have 1-to-1 net metering. For new solar homeowners that are just joining the grid, they receive a 75% credit of the retail rate for any excess electricity that they send to the grid. And that's just like important to understand because that's part of the economics that factor into whether it is a good decision to go solar. And it still is a good decision to go solar, but you want to be mindful of this because it's affecting your payback period and, of course, the savings that you're receiving on your utility bill. All right, so here is just some helpful terminology to be mindful of. Some of you are probably familiar with this, but I'm just going to cover it for all of us so we have shared language. So kilowatts is a unit of power. It's in 1,000-watt increments, and it's used to describe a solar system. So 1,000 watts is 1 kilowatt. Usually system sizes can vary between like anywhere from 5 kilowatts to 10 kilowatts. The average size in Nevada is between about 7 and 8 kilowatts. And you can see here is an example. We have 12 panels. That's the total solar array, and each panel is a 350 watt panel. So if we take those 350 watts and we multiply by the 12 panels, we have a 4,200 watt system or a 4.2 kilowatt system. Kilowatt hours is the electricity production that your system is using, also, or producing, and then you can also think of it of like your appliance, maybe your 1,000 megawatt or 1,000 kilowatt microwave. You could be familiar with that. All right, so here is a quick example of what a very simplified version of what your electric bill might look like. So again, this is your electrical consumption from the grid. Maybe you're pulling 300 kilowatt hours, but you also exported. Maybe your panels during the middle of the day produced an additional 200 kilowatt hours that you didn't use. So it's just simple subtraction there. That's what is going to show up on your bill. You are also going to have a handful of other charges like the basic service charge, which is $18.50, and there are some additional charges in Nevada that I'm not going to talk about today, but if you have any questions about that, you can certainly ask me. All right, so you all are probably familiar that Nevada has great solar potential, right? We've got an abundance of sunshine in this state. This is a great solar insolation annual average map. That's a little bit technical for just how much sunshine is hitting us. Those cloudless days that we have down in Vegas, right? It's like 97% of annual daylight hours are cloudless in Vegas. I saw that in a New York Times article today. So we lead the nation actually in solar power generation, and we rank sixth in the nation for total solar capacity, and fifth in solar generation, which is all to say that it makes a lot of sense to go solar in Nevada. It's important to consider your roof orientation if you are thinking about going solar. You do really want to either have a south-facing roof or west and east can also make a lot of sense. This is why we offer free roof reviews. We essentially want to make sure that you don't have a lot of obstructions on your roof, like shading, right? For a tree that's in your yard, that's going to impact the generation of your system. You also want to make sure that you have enough space on your roof. The average size panel is 6 feet by 3.5 feet. So they take up space, and you want to make sure that you've got that space. And yeah, again, we are able to offer a free roof review that we can do that through our solar help desk if you have any questions about that. Some people are really interested in battery storage because when the grid goes down, your system will automatically shut off. And that is because we don't want those spare electrons to be flowing through the lines and impacting line workers and causing safety hazards. So in order for your system to continue generating, you do need to have backup storage, like that battery storage, which is going to allow you to tap into that. Some people are really interested in battery storage. This is especially if you are subject to a lot of utility outages. You might have critical loads at home, like medical equipment or well pumps, and in general, want to be mindful of disaster preparedness. Like in Florida, there's a lot of people with battery storage just because of hurricane season, right? Batteries are still very expensive, so that is something to be aware of as you consider that decision. And unfortunately, the prices have gone up with just the uncertainty of the market and some of the tariffs that are in place right now. And then this is our general going solar checklist. The biggest thing here is to really do your research. Um, we have got a lot of information on our website and a lot of really helpful guides that you will see shortly. We really encourage people to thoroughly research installers and solicit and compare at least 3 custom proposals. Those proposals can be very long at times and complicated. So if you need assistance in comparing those proposals and reviewing them, Sun can offer that assistance. Again, we are not going to recommend one installer over the other, but we might point out some aspects of the proposal for you to be mindful of. Um, and in this process, you should be asking a lot of questions like, where will my panels be installed? Where's the inverter going to be located? Where's the wiring going to be? Um, you really want to know like the equipment that's being used and have a general understanding of this system that you're looking at. And again, you'll eventually sign a contract. This is a legal document, and so it can be lengthy and full of jargon. So be sure to read it thoroughly, and everything really should be as you expected and reflecting what you and the installer have discussed thus far. So, if you do need any assistance with this process, please reach out to Sun. We are a consumer protection organization, and we want to make sure that people are making the best decisions for themselves. You really should never feel pressured to purchase solar. And you'll get these slides after our presentation, so you can access these 2 guides here that, again, really go through the process very detailed. All right, so just sharing a little bit more about our National Solar Help Desk. This is a free service that's available to you. We have multilingual support and have real people on the other side who can answer any common or complex questions, provide that roof review, a proposal comparison, or maybe even just go through your utility bill. What does this charge mean? And how is this working? We're there to really help you understand that. We can also check the solar app data. So oftentimes your inverter will be tracking how much your system is going to be generating. And if you're confused about these generation numbers, we can help pull that for you. We can also connect you to financial incentives. We'll talk about some of those that are available right now, and then generally just share more about consumer education, protection, and remediation. So we get a lot of questions about solar, but some of the most frequent, what is the cost of the system? So it can really depend based on the system size and the equipment used, as well as local factors like labor and permitting cost. The average price in Nevada is about $2.75 per watt. Um, Based off of like a 7 kilowatt system. So you're looking like a couple $1,000s typically. But that being said, um, typical Nevadan households, again, this is going to be dependent on your usage. You can save about $1,500 in your first year on electricity bills, with a typical system paying for itself in less than 10 years. And when you think about the system's life, like sometimes 25 years or longer, homeowners can often save thousands and thousands of dollars on energy costs. And again, once you've paid off your initial investment, those savings are going directly into your pocket. Um, and we also know that by adding solar panels, you're typically seeing an increase in your home value, about 4.1% higher selling price compared to non-solar homes. It's important to be mindful of warranties, and we talk about this in our guide, so I'm just going to list these warranties here to be sensitive to. The power production warranty, which is just going to guarantee the amount of power your system is going to produce later during its system life. The parts warranty, which is covering any of the physical materials involved with your installation, all of that equipment. And then the labor warranty, which is covering roof penetrations or other work that's being done by the installation crews. You want to be asking if your system has these and if your installer is using these. That's definitely something to look out for. Pardon me. Most people do not see an increase in their home insurance. And in terms of the installation process, it usually only takes 1 to 2 days for the system to be physically installed. However, it can take several weeks, a couple to several weeks for the system to get connected to the grid. So there is a lag time there. Generally, maintenance is fairly low for solar panels. Rain will keep them clean. However, in our state, that can vary. So if there is a lot of particulate matter like dust in the air, we do recommend that you have your panels cleaned. And we do advise to do that professionally just because some water can be very hard and that hard water can lead residue on the panels and affect the generation. Most systems are warranted for 25 years, but can last far beyond 25 years. Just like any technology, your system's efficiency will decline over time. So you won't be generating the same amount of power that you did when you first installed the system. Like 10 years down the line, you're going to see less generation. And if your solar company does go out of business, we do have a helpful guide about that and can also connect you to resources through our help desk. Um, and HOAs here, there's a law that just went into, or it's going into effect, it was just passed, that really clarifies the language around HOAs so that they can't deny solar for any reason. And if you're in a historic district, we just recommend that you check out those local historic guidelines. All right, that's a lot of questions to cover. Let's keep going. All right, so let's talk briefly about the economics. The price of solar has fallen dramatically since the 70s, just because the technology has dramatically improved since then. And so it can be a really good return on investment. It wasn't always that way. And especially with the federal tax credit, where if you have tax liability, so if you owe taxes, you can access this tax credit the year after you install your system, and that's 30% up to of the system cost. And if you don't have all of that liability that year, that can roll over to the following year. Now, I'm going to put an asterisk on this all right now because the federal tax credit, the investment tax credit for residential solar owners, that is at risk. Right now, Congress is deliberating over whether this will be preserved in the years to come. So we're also going to invite you to advocate for this, right? Because this makes solar much more accessible for folks. It's a really big investment to make, and having this tax credit definitely helps people make this investment. There's also a number of other incentives that are available through the Inflation Reduction Act. Again, a lot of these incentives are also at risk right now, but we do also have some local incentives through NV Energy, which I know All In has listed on their website as well. Um, how do you pay for this system? So I'll just say from the very beginning that cash, while it is the highest upfront cost, is going to maximize your savings in the long run. A lot of people cannot afford to pay in cash. So what are the other options? Loans are a great option, and I'll get into the details on that on the following slide. But we also have something called third-party ownership, or power purchase agreements, and this is where a third party, sometimes an installer or a financer, will own the system on your roof and then lease the panels. So you'll still receive the benefits of the generation of that electricity, but you'll pay a flat monthly fee for whoever owns the panels. We also really encourage people to look at financing, especially if you're not eligible to claim the federal tax credit. It's a really good option. Because that third party can claim that credit and pass those savings on to you. And then there is a grant. The Rural Energy for America program does offer grants for clean energy technology, and we have a guide on that as well to determine if you qualify. Biggest things with loan is shop around, try and get a lot of different options. You can go through your installer, or you can reach out to a credit union. There's often solar loans through your local credit union, or the Clean Energy Credit Union and Community First Credit Union are national credit unions that offer their own solar loans. Installers can be nice because they can streamline things, but you just want to make sure that you're really thoroughly reading the loan agreement and what are those particular things to be mindful of. We wouldn't recommend refinancing your home right now because interest rates are pretty high. All right, so there are a number of resources that we have out there, and I just wanted to put them all in one place so that you can access these. So everything from our solar help desk to guides, how to spot solar scams, how to thoroughly read your proposal, your contract, if you do have any issues. even if you're having issues getting your system connected to the utility, and then finally other resources once you become a solar owner. So these are all linked and will be accessible via the slide deck. All right. Do we have any questions?
Thanks so much, Julia, for that great review of solar. I know you already answered a lot of questions with your FAQ, so thank you for that. But let me pull up some of the audience questions. For the Going Solar checklist, does it come with a list of questions to ask an installer or things to look out for when you're communicating with installers?
Yes, I would say that that has like a kind of comprehensive kind of walkthrough process, but then also in terms of like checking solar scams, you might want to be just like mindful of that in terms of what to look for in a good installer, any red flags. Generally, right, like installers that are being recommended to you that have good reviews, you might check if there's any issues on the contractor board that have been flagged. These are all things to be mindful of, but those resources will definitely include all of those helpful tips.
Thank you. Next question. What's the difference between buying and leasing solar panels, especially once it comes to selling a home?
Yeah, great question. So when you are leasing panels, you'll have I think it's called a transactional agreement, and I will double check this after our presentation today and send that out to Olivia. But it's just going to spell out like how your panels will be transferred and the particular agreements around that and all of the documentation associated with that. And that's why it's really, really important to save any documentation you have about your system, whether you are buying your system outright or whether you are leasing a system, because that information is going to be really helpful for the next homeowner. And will make that more of a seamless process. And I know realtors are really advocate to have all of that documentation. Does that better answer your question? We do have a guide on that as well on our website.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Next question. How do solar systems handle our extreme weather events such as wind, dust, and heat?
Good question. So typically, dust, as I talked about, like dust particulates can affect the generation of your system. So you'll want to be mindful of that. When systems are racked onto a roof, I mean, there are a number of different installation types that you can do. And there actually are floating systems that are weighed down with weights. That is not something that we recommend in Nevada with our high winds, but it is used in other parts of the country. So you'll see online that there are a number of different racking technologies depending on the type of roof you have. But generally, these technologies can withstand high weather, extreme weather events.
Great. Thank you so much.
And have warranties. I should say that, like be mindful of your warranty.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Julia. That's it for today's questions. Thank you to the audience for tuning in today. And another special thank you to Julia for coming on and sharing her expertise on how solar works and the opportunities available here for us. We're glad that everyone could join and learn more about going solar.
And before we go, I know some people may have already hopped off, but if you are still around, I just wanted to plug that tonight we do have a comment writing workshop. Some of you may be aware that NV Energy has a couple of proposals before our Public Utility Commission of Nevada, one of which is a general rate case, which includes a rate hike. A new daily demand charge, where your highest usage of electricity would be charged, as well as changing from monthly netting to 15-minute netting. And that is a direct attack on devaluing solar. And we are trying to fight this and get people to speak out against this proposal. So if you're interested in learning more, you can go to our website and sign up for that event. I will actually send it to Olivia, maybe, that she can send out after this. And we also have a consumer session up in Northern Nevada where we will be speaking out about this. But the Public Utility Commission will be taking into consideration public comments. And so we are trying to get as many public comments as we can on these two dockets before the commission.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julia, for sharing that. Definitely go check out Sun's website for all their guides, resources, events, public comments that they host. Um, if you'd like to learn more about All in Clark County, please feel free to visit our website, allinclarkcounty.com. I encourage you to follow us on social media at Clark County DES, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. We also have a webinar series out right now. Our next one is July 28th. If you want to tune into that one, it'll be about UNLV's sustainability programs and their recycling programs. So you'll hear about from their office about that. Um, but that's it. Thank you all again. This concludes today's webinar. Thank you for being here today and have a great rest of your day and summer.
And thank you so much for joining us. Take care, everyone.